I've got 1 week left in January, so let's get all these end of year videos out before the year is over. That is my goal, and today I'm moving closer to it by sharing my top 10 best rap albums of 2022 with you. I thought the year was alright when we were in it, but looking back at it now for this list, god damn, the good stuff that we got was really good. But right before we get into it, I want to share with you guys that this video is sponsored by the #1 supporter of YouTubers since forever, Raid Shadow Legends. It is the first game to bring a true console level experience to your phone. It is something you can sink countless hours into as you fight raid bosses, battle in the campaign, or take on other players in their PvP arena mode. Sounding good? You can use my QR code on the screen or the links down in the description below at any time to download Raid yourself on mobile or PC. Tell us more about it, I hear you scream with genuine enthusiasm. No problem. As it's their 3rd anniversary, we're gonna be doing a little top 3 list here of the top 3 most badass raid champions that you can beat some boss meat with. Number 3, Ripperfist. Lots of beef on him, and look at those hands. Oh my. Ripperfist indeed. Number 2, Turvold. With a beard that nearly rivals mine and a sword almost as big as the one that I carry around with me 24/7, he looks like someone that you do not want to mess with. And number 1, Candrafon. Terrifying, but badass indeed, and my favorite raid champion. As for what's new in Raid this month, ho ho ho, it's a big one. All new players can take part in Raid's Champions Elect event. Download the game from the link below, copy your in-game player ID, and then go to championselect.plarium.com. Then when you're there, enter in your player ID and vote for your favorite starter champion. The vote runs until February 10th, and all eligible entrants will have the chance to win in-game prizes and real-life prizes such as Amazon gift cards worth up to $1,000. When the voting ends, one champion will be selected as the winner, and prize winners will be selected through a prize draw. And if you're an existing player, you can still get involved by going to the same link, championselect.plarium.com, to get a special promo code that everyone can use for a small in-game gift. So head to my link down in the description or scan the QR code on the screen right now, and as a new player, get a huge head start with the epic champion Aina, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard to summon a champion as soon as you get in the game. Worth $30. Your extra rewards will be here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. Thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring today's video. So this is CDTV Productions, and let's get started with my personal list of 2022's best rap albums.
Probably won't get my flowers while I can smell them. It's gonna take my untimely demise before they realize I was a legend.
Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to keep up with all the music that's coming out of the Griselda camp, especially if they're not the only group of rappers that you listen to, but it's good to see with albums like this that they're still dropping quality music. I would argue that Conway's at his best when he's being vulnerable and introspective, and with God Don't Make Mistakes, we get more of that than we do dark, grimy bangers. Make no mistake, we still do have tracks like Lock Load, Piano Love, and Drum Work that carry more devilish production and murderous lyricism, and for the most part, these songs are great, but Conway shines through with stuff like Tear Gas, Wild Chapters, Stressed, and the title track. Stressed in particular, the amount of hard-hitting stuff that he covers on that track is just so impactful.
Imagine being in the hospital holding your dead baby, and he looks just like you. You're trying to keep him going crazy.
Sure, there's parts of Conway's story we've heard on here a lot before, like his face being half paralyzed after he was shot, but that is always going to be a part of his story and a big influence in his life, and it always hits whenever he talks about how it affects him, but also how fortunate it was that it ended up in a way where he could still walk and rap and live his life.
They told me I'll be paralyzed, neck down. What if the doctor was right? Nigga, I walked out that hospital twice.
Basically, it's another great addition to the discography of Conway. Also, Rick Ross and Lil Wayne on Tear Gas, amazing feature choices for that one.
Hey yo, what's the deal? Mind too active, can't sit still. I kinda feel like I just took a limitless pill.
Just like with No Pressure in 2020, Logic added another strong addition to his run in this decade with Vinyl Days. Sure, it's a little bit overly long at 30 tracks, and pretty much all of the skits are skips after your first listen, at least they were for me, but outside of those really minor gripes, it's a solid project where we get to hear Logic returning to an almost Young Sinatra-esque style with a focus on boom bap production, old school samples and references, and clever but easy to grasp lyricism.
If I said it, I meant it. Came from the bottom in the center. Now I think I'm a good father figure, cause I was son of rappers before I was a father, go figure.
You even have Funkmaster Flex hosting the project to provide even more to that old school feel. At this point in his career, it does feel like Logic is just rapping for the love of it and putting out the music he feels like making without overthinking it, and it seems like that's taken some pressure off of his shoulders. He's given us the more grand, conceptual projects earlier in his career, so at this point I'm perfectly happy with him focusing on throwing it back to the roots of hip-hop and showcasing his passion for the genre.
Tell the troops up and load up a caravan. I'm maneuverable with all kind of ratchet. Had the bulletproof whip, we'll crash it. When you dealing with demons who careless.
This is actually the only mainstream trap sound style of project that I have on the list this year. Usually I feel like I have a few to pick from, but I guess this year we just didn't have a lot of good or great ones, but luckily Future came through to hold the subgenre on his back. I Never Liked You just dropped at the right time for me when I really started getting more into Future's music, and it turned out to be in my top 5 projects of his. I reacted to this album when it came out and gave some updated thoughts on it when I ranked Future's albums, so I don't have too much to add on top of that without repeating myself, other than to say I still do really enjoy it, and the couple weak points that it does have really don't hold the album back much at all. If you're looking for an album that's mainly just straight up bangers, then this is the one from 2022.
If money is the evil root, let the smoker shine the coops.
As I said in my best hit songs of 2022 list, it was difficult to pick which one of the 5 that charted from this album was the best, because being a Pusha T album, each song is carefully designed to be a quality track. Probably the only one I don't care for on here is Call My Bluff, and that's just because it's not to my taste. But my god, is pretty much everything else extremely solid. You've got a perfect split here of 6 tracks with Pharrell producing and 6 of Kanye producing. And I've got to say, when you have it separated into sides, they both look pretty damn stacked. But I think Pharrell's side just edges it out for me, even if I prefer Kanye as a producer overall. I mean, Pharrell's side has Let the Smokers Shine the Coops, so that's not even fair. That song goes crazy. Either way, Pusha got a bunch of high quality production to go over, and he didn't waste any of it with very precise rapping over it. And he managed to make a track with him, Don Toliver, and Lil Uzi sound completely natural and in form with the rest of the album, so big points for that too.
And if you need a couple keys, I'm the connect, my boy, off the top.
I just scraped it off the top.
It's Almost Dry is another compact, quality piece of work from Pusha T.
Prisoners of Azkaban, thinking of a master plan. Images of Grand Jabbar, Jamel Shabazz, Dapper Dan.
Outside of his features, this was actually my first experience with Black Thought's music, and therefore the first project I've heard from him. And god damn. What a way to start. Let me start with Danger Mouse real quick, the production half of the album, because this is some of the best production I heard all year. I need to dive into more of his work ASAP, because stuff like Sometimes, The Darkest Part, Because, Belize, and Close to Famous sound absolutely stunning.
I'm from with too many lives, 25 years or fewer. Nothing we receive is brand new, it's just newer. A mic with a cord, I never do a show without it. When dealing with force, I lift them up and throw them out. I know the way to go the route.
His stuff with MF Doom is at the top of my list of stuff to check out after getting to hear a little bit of them together on Belize here. And then Black Thought. Just an absolute rapping heavyweight to get over these beats. I love how much power his voice can carry over these instrumentals, and the impressiveness of his bars combined with all of that is the perfect recipe for immense replay value. And if all that wasn't enough, the feature list on this is a wet dream for rap fans. Raekwon, MF Doom, Joey Badass, ASAP Rocky, Run the Jewels, Conway the Machine, every single one of them adds something of value to this project. It's extremely well put together and executed. Yeah, Black Thought and Danger Mouse are both on my list of check more from these people out soon as fuck because you have been missing out.
The plane started to fly, the rain started to fail. That's LaGuardia and Rikers, the airport next to a jail.
Man, I don't even know if I fully understand every track on this project yet, but that doesn't matter because trying to peel back the layers of each song is what makes listening to Lupe so rewarding. The way he raps his stories is almost novelistic in a way, if that's a word, which is great for me because I just got properly back into reading actual books in 2022. It just makes me even more interested in truly understanding tracks like Kiosk or Ms. Mural, an amazing 1-2 punch of perfect storytelling from Lupe back to back on this album.
The matching ring chain gon' look insane when you untuck it. They'll never know the difference even if you let them touch it. The current art world is just competitively opaque. It never ceases to amaze. My mouth is medically agape.
I could tell you generally what the story and idea of those tracks are, but there's so many little details to it that you catch more and more each time. I think a few years from now, I'll probably appreciate this album even more than I already do now. The little details behind the album are really cool too. Lupe recorded this entire project in about 72 hours on a budget USB microphone. And if you think it's a really great project like I do, both those things are pretty impressive and go to show that the value of your recording equipment or time constraints don't matter as much if you have something to say in a compelling way. Also, I can't not mention the beautiful cover art that this album has. That's actually a painting that Lupe made himself, and it is a lovely piece of art to stare at while you listen. With 10 tracks, it's a concise listen, and each one is a quality song with a lot of great sounding tracks throughout the album as well, which to me is just as important as content. Lupe knows how to make great sounding music with a lot of depth to it.
They argue KD1, KD2, a Magic was harder when KD3 go harder than all of them.
Nas's first King's Disease project. Plenty of people asked where it was on my best 2020 albums list. King's Disease 2, loads of people asked why it wasn't mentioned in my video reviewing every 2021 rap album I listened to. And the reason both of those weren't included was because I just didn't listen to either of them by the time that I got around to making the videos. And I still haven't heard them yet, but we'll get into that as we go on with this segment. But King's Disease 3. As you can tell, I did listen, and it's got me wanting to go back and check out those albums because this is even more incredible than I thought it might be. I need to catch up as soon as possible because it seems like Nas's 2020s run, 30 years deep into his career, has been absolutely phenomenal so far. I can't possibly touch on every track or aspect of the album in this short segment here, but just know that it's 100% worth your time checking out. If you haven't heard it, listen to the first 3 or 4 tracks, and if that hooks you, you're gonna love the rest of it. Even if lyrical rap isn't entirely your thing, at least check out 30 Until My Last Breath because they go hard.
Breaking hearts on some real thin line shit. I'm done with star chicks, I survived divorces. I ain't have to climb back, I just climbed in Porsches. Yeah, get it cross state lines. King's Disease going, Katie going, Trey 5.
The lyricism is on point with every track. A couple of my favorites were Beef, where Nas raps as the personification of beef, not the meat, the other kind of beef that, you know, two people would have against each other. That kind of beef, which also samples Nas's legendary NY State of Mind, and Once a Man, Twice a Child, which tackles aging and appreciating your youthfulness while you have it.
Beef is my name, my story is age old. So question, why do I always come to take so? Live while you got the strip to, help you should tend to. Look, all of us ain't gonna get old, I hope this message hits you, for real.
The production is brilliant, with Hit Boy producing on every song, so the production feels modern enough, while still having a mostly old school focus. By the way, the fact that he produced every track on here, man is a menace with the beats. This project is so damn great because it made me really realize I don't want to miss out on this legendary Nas run while it's still happening. If this is how good Nas and Hit Boy are together, then I'm extremely happy that I have 3 more projects from the past 3 years to check out from them.
Jigga Man made his first album at 26. I passed 25. I was 17 getting rich.
You already know Denzel had to be somewhere in the top 5 for me. I'm not 100% sure where I'd rank it within Denzel's discography itself exactly, but I'm almost certain that Melt My Eyes would be in the top 3. We all know how Denzel generally sounds at this point, so the most important thing for him to do at this stage in his career is find a way to grow further with every new project, and he certainly did that with Melt My Eyes, taking us on an introspective journey along with him. Sure, Denzel has been pretty open on his albums before, but this one genuinely plays out like tracks of back-to-back therapy sessions. On top of that, it's probably got some of the best sounding tracks he's ever released, with songs like Melt Session No. 1, Walkin', Mental, and The Ills, all having production that matches this more reflective vibe.
My mental state is whatever happens, happened. I'm making it happen, rapping. If I was back in the 40s, I would have been gassing, scatting.
Ain't No Way is flat out one of the best songs of 2022 with a killer verse from Denzel. Angels is one that I underrated a bit on my first listen, but goddamn, that beat is incredible, and I love what Denzel has to say on it. I'd just go as far to say that there isn't really a single song that's lacking on this project. Denzel once again coming through with an album that just proves he has one of the more consistent discographies out there when it comes to quality. Oh yeah, and I'm also gonna say this one probably has the accolade of best deluxe version of a rap album in 2022 as well. That cold-blooded soul version of X-Wing transforms it into an entirely different, amazing track. Also, bonus points for such a lovely cover to have all blown up on the vinyl. I just had to get it. Beautiful stuff.
Somebody told me when I was small that the pride cometh right before the fall. God's son died for us all.
This album was so consistently good that almost any track from it could have qualified for my top 3 songs from it. It actually gave me a headache just trying to choose 3, because Radar should definitely be on there, so should Dance Now, but so should Crack Sandwich, and Surround Sound, and System M, and Brother M, and Better Days in 2007, and even then I cut a bunch out of that list there, so I just wasn't listing off the track list. I'm so happy Jid took his time with this one, because he's had really solid albums before, but this one is the most consistently great project he's ever dropped, no question. Flows, storytelling, themes, vulnerability, you name any aspect, and Jid's at his peak so far with it on here. Family, friends, the evolution of his own story, Jid covers it all on here with incredible highlights like the last verse of Crack Sandwich, the first verse of Better Days, or the entirety of the autobiographical track 2007, which I believe was also the year that Soulja Boy started rapping. Who would have thought? God, it is crazy to think that that joke is like 3-4 years old at this point. Goddamn. In my opinion, this is by far the best written Jid album today. I do like his other work, but sometimes I feel like the lyrics could feel a little disconnected, and the tracks didn't necessarily form the most cohesive albums, but everything on the Forever Story feels interwoven, connected, and important to relaying its narrative. This right here is a perfect example of how to make a 4-year wait worth it. And it's easily gonna be my most replayed Jid project out of everything that he has out so far. Amazing stuff. Now, let's get the obvious out of the way real quick. This isn't fully a rap album, so if you want to count the Forever Story as my #1 rap album of the year, then go right ahead. You can interpret this list however you want, and I'm being pretty loose with the rules by including this one anyway. But this album stunned me so much, and is easily my favorite one that dropped in 2022, so I just had to include it at #1 here. I couldn't not mention it. This right here is everything I love in an album. Start to finish story type albums are absolutely my favorite when they're done right, and Quadeca does it beautifully with the story of his ghost having to watch his family move on without him. This is an album that strikes such an emotional note with its lyrics and delivery that I genuinely can't listen to it super frequently. That might sound like a bad thing, but it's not. The album is just so well done that I need sort of long breaks from listening to it, or else I'm just going to be feeling sad all day. And I can't do that. I have stuff to do in my day, but that is just a testament to how well done the album is. The story is beautiful with how it evolves, but it also has a lot of painful moments that you get sucked right into because this album absorbs you into the world that it builds. The sound of it, of course, is absolutely phenomenal too, and such an insane step up for Quadeca that it almost doesn't feel real. And I'm saying that as someone that's been a fan of him for a few years now. You've got the overwhelming outro of Tell Me a Joke, which reminds me a bit of Sisyphus with its powerful drums, the extremely moving emotional vocals at the end of Born Yesterday, the almost uncomfortably intimate sound of Fantasy World, which is actually a track that precedes the whole story, detailing Quadeca's desire to move on from this world. Everything about Fractions of Infinity, which I think just might be the best Quadeca song yet. It's all amazing. And of course, bonus points for having some incredible visuals to go along with the album. The music videos are just pretty stunning. I never could have quite pictured Quadeca's music going in this direction, being so experimental and different, but I'm glad that it did because this is his most amazing album yet, and in my opinion, the best album I heard in 2022. And so there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, if you don't count I Didn't Mean to Haunt You as a rap album, which I do understand, then The Forever Story is my #1 rap album of the year. But I Didn't Mean to Haunt You is my #1 album of the year. So now I'm gonna ask you guys, what was your favorite album of the year? Make sure to drop it down in the comments below, whether you want to put a whole list down there or just your absolute favorite one. And you can click right there on the screen wherever it pops up, probably the bottom right corner, I think, to see what my 10 worst songs of the year were. Much love to my Patreon supporters who should be on the screen right now, with an extra bit of love to my biggest supporters, and those are Aguirre, Big Daddy Foe, Diego Victoriano, Griffin Upchurch, I Am Regent, Josh Gourmet, Lucas1123, and Ryan Shadow 507.